Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Vanta, and welcome back for another episode of The Good, the Bad, and the Films. And I am so excited to talk to you guys about this episode because it is absolute peak. So, in this episode, I am going to talk about Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie and my thoughts on it. And honestly, I'm just gonna say this right off the bat. It is around 3 hours of straight peak. And I am not glazing. I am not trying to be funny. In my honest and humble opinion, I think that it was one of the best film I could have experienced in theater. And yes, I have went to the theater this time. Oh my god, guys. Are you not excited for me? Let me do that again. Right, going to the theater instead of pirating films. Who said that? But it is so exciting. It was so exciting. I went to see it yesterday, which is September 12th. I'm not sure when this episode is going to be uploaded, but I went to see on September 12th. Initially, I had tickets for September 11th, but then I had something else that came up, so I asked for a refund and I went to see it on a Friday night instead. And it was beautiful. So I'm going to talk about my experience I'm going to talk about my experience watching it in theater first, and then we're going to get into the meaty part. But if you are listening to this episode and you haven't watched Demon Slayer like at all, or Infinity Castle, or you don't need, or like even if you don't know what Demon Slayer is, I highly recommend giving it a watch because I was very skeptical at first. I remember just like a month ago, I was talking to my coworker, and a lot of my coworker watch anime, and I was talking to them, and I was like, "Yeah, I would never watch Demon Slayer. That's like, I'm not watching that. I don't care. I'm not gonna touch it because I have seen clips of it, and while it looks decent, it looks good. I don't like how." Some of the female characters are sexualized, like their clothing and the way the fan base treat them, and I was like, I don't really dig that. I don't love that, so I'm not gonna touch it. But then one day I was scrolling TikTok as usual, and I stumbled upon some of the leaks, the early leaks of Infinity Castle in theater. So if you guys don't know, then the movie was released way before in a lot of Asian countries, as in like they were released back in June or July, and it's not until September, like now, that they released it in United States. I'm not sure how it is for European countries, but for Asian audience, they get to watch it very early on, and a lot of the people, they record the films. Come on, let's just people do that. Let's not beat around the bush. People do that, and they put it on TikTok, and I was watching a few clips of it, very coincidentally, right? And I was like, this looks absolutely insane. I have never seen animation scale to this extent, and I'm not saying that I'm not a fan of animation. I do feel like I don't watch them enough, which is very ironic because, we grow up with cartoons and everything like that, which is animation, right? But as I grow up, I feel like animation is one of those genre that I don't find myself seeking that often. If I see an animation or a film that I find interesting, then I will watch it. And but it's I don't it's not one of my top um genre, but I'm not saying that I don't love animation. I think animation is probably the one that you would have to put the most work in because you're not having actors, you're not having anything that you do on set. Everything is drawn, and it's just so fascinating to see animators working at it, and I just have so much respect. Out of all of the genre, I have the most respect for animation. But it is a bummer that I don't find myself seeking out that much. Maybe after this I will, but when it comes to anime, a lot of people like think to themselves, well, what is the difference between animation and anime? And while I'm not like an expert about anime or animation, I have never done anything in any of those fields. I watched them, I consumed them, I really enjoyed them. Personally, for me, I think anime is more about the culture. For animation, it's a broader terms for anything that is animated, and anime is, it stems from Japan. It's a very crucial part of Japanese culture. And I think it's the introduction to Japanese culture for a lot of people with, voice acting that is in Japanese, with a lot of the animes are embedded with culture, with Japanese culture. And it's great because you get to learn a lot about the nation that way, and it's just a very, very fun sort of subgenre that you can enjoy without, not even if you're unfamiliar with animation. And I think that anime is a league on its own, and it's just so great to see many people our generation enjoyed it, because I grew up with Detective Conan. I don't know, a lot of people, I talked to about it for a few people in, as I said, a lot of my coworkers watch anime, but I don't think they're as familiar with it as I do. So I grew up reading the manga, and from from chapter 1 to 100, me and my brother, we collect them. Even though we don't read it anymore, the entire full collection from chapter 1 to 100 is in my brother's room, and we both really enjoyed it. It's such a crucial part of our childhood because it's a lot about, solving crimes and mysteries and all of that, and I really love a good mystery, so I highly recommend it to you guys. It is a very long series, I would say. It's still ongoing, which is so crazy to me. I started watching it, reading it back in secondary school, and I'm in my junior year of college. They're still ongoing, so it's a wild ride. And I also grew up with Doraemon. That's how I say it. I'm not sure how other people say it, Doraemon, but it's a mechanical cat from the future, and it's also a very good series. I highly recommend. It's a crucial part in a lot of at least for Vietnamese kids childhood. And I grew up with them, but I never really know that it was anime. So I would say that for me, growing up with that and now able to enjoying them with a more mature perspective and mindset has definitely something that is great, that I'm able to experience with, and I'm very grateful for that. And going back to Demon Slayer and how skeptical I was, yeah, it's very funny how I keep telling myself, yeah, it's one of those movies I don't want to watch, those series I don't want to watch, because I low key am kind of pick me. I'm just kidding. Am I? But anyways, I am low-key, well, not low-key, you guys know this. I'm very picky about the shows and the series I watch because I know how the commitment. So when it comes to anime, I'm the same way, right? So my first anime that I've watched, well, it's not the first, but my favorite anime of all time is Attack on Titan. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's so overrated. You guys glaze it too much. And yada, yada. I personally, it's one of my best experience watching media in general, so I really, really love it. But I have watched other stuff before that. It's not Attack on Titan, it's not my first, but it is my favorite. So I have this standard of watching anime, and I have watched a few of them that I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying this so far, but then later along the line I'm like, well, I don't know. So a lot of the times I would not finish an anime. So, and there's a lot of them, right? And for Demon Slayer, I was hooked from the start. Season 1 for me was pretty it was a good introduction to the characters, but it was mostly training and fighting, like not insignificant characters, but it was just a lot of training. I remember, I know that season 4 is the one that is primarily training, but season 1 for me was very simple, but it gets to the point. And very straightforward, and I really like that in anime where they just don't waste any time. And the first second was like, my parents die, Muzan killed all my family, and all of that in different anime, and I was like, yep, I'm hooked. So like the same goes for Attack on Titan. Well, spoiler alert if you haven't watched it, but literally the first episode was like Aaron's mom died, and that's where he's like, I'm gonna kill every single Titans out there. So I love when anime just gets straight to the point. I really enjoy that. Yeah, and then when I finally gave Demon Slayer a full watch, I finished 3 seasons in one single day, which is very unemployed of me, I will say, and I am employed, so that says a lot. I was watching because season 1 was the longest, so I was watching it throughout the week, but then I had a Sunday to myself, and I was like, I want to watch this because I also know that the movie was coming out here soon, and so I was like, I need to finish this before the film start premiering in the United States because I really want to see it in theater. And I finished all of them in one day, no breaks. I took 25 steps that day. I'm saying this for you guys to know how bad it gets when I get into like this rage of pure binging films and series. This is how bad it gets. I even charge my computer on my lap instead of, I have a table and like a designated place to charge it every day, for when I sleep and everything. But then on that day, I was like, no, I need to keep going. So I just bring the charger to my bed and I charge it on my lap as I watch. So my MacBook was screaming on the inside for me to let it rest. But I was like, no, we are getting through this. I started watching season 2 at 1 p.m. And I finished the final episode of season 4 at 2 a.m. in the morning. And then I have school and work the next day. So it was an amazing ride. I would say out of all the seasons, I enjoyed season 2 the most. I really, really enjoyed Entertainment District arc. It was really fun. The movie, the Mugen Train was also really good. Oh my god, I'm gonna rant about the movie later, but we're focusing on Infinity Castle today. And so yeah, that's a little bit of my background of my experience catching up with Demon Slayer, and it was great. And so yesterday I went alone. It was also my first time going to the theater alone. Not that I have any problem with that. Absolutely loved it. It was so fun. It was nearly an hour. So I went to watch it at 4:30 and I got out at like nearly 7:30, I would say. So it was 2.5 hour movie. But I'm telling you right now, sitting on that chair, it did not feel like 2.5 hours for me. Some of the parts, my criticism is this, some of the part does feel like it is dragging just a little bit, but I think that it's fair because if you are familiar with Demon Slayer, which, first of all, I'm so sorry, I should have said this in the beginning, but spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it, but also for spoiler alert for those who have watched Demon Slayer but have not watched Infinity Castle, please go watch it. It is so worth it, and if you're a manga reader, please jump in, listen anyway. It's a fun time. But obviously, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about major stuff here. So, yeah, please enjoy the film for yourself. And where was I? Yeah, so if you're familiar with Demon Slayer, you know that every single character have a backstory. Like, I say every single character, even the side characters have backstories. And so it's not a crazy concept to know that, even the demons themselves, they have, we know this from earlier on in the series, but I see a lot of criticism about Akaza's story at the end, and I would say that I kind of agree with it because it does feel a lot longer than anybody else's backstory, which is really something, because on one hand it's kind of like, well, how important is Akaza if he has this long of a story and his impact is pretty evident, right? He killed Rengoku, which I'm gonna say this right now, I was furious because I have seen so many people praising Rengoku, and I have friends who really like Rengoku. She even had her hair did like he did, had like his hair. So I'm like, okay, so this is a major character. Even before I watched Demon Slayer, right? That's my impression of Rengoku, is that he's one of the main characters and he's gonna have so much of a role in the story. And then I found out that we get to see him in one single movie and he dies at the end of it. And I'm like, okay, well, screw you guys. I was crying so much that day. And I was just really sad, but at the same time, he still does have a very big impact on the story, period, because everybody has a flashback on him like every single season afterward. Season 2 we had a flashback of him, season 3, season 4, and then in the movie Infinity Castle we see like a split second of him. And yeah, I think he's a pretty great example of haunting the narrative, because even if he didn't survive for as long as I wanted him to, his words and his fire and his motivation, really, I think it's how we were able to have Tanjiro like here. And what I mean by that was, Tanjiro watching the death of one of the people that he think is so strong and he sort of idolized, he looked up to, right? Even if they don't know each other that well and they just met each other at the same night of the event of Mugen Train, it's just, I think Tanjiro immediately knows how good of a person Rengoku is and how strong he is. And to watch somebody who is stronger than you dies before your eyes and with a smile on their face, that will do something to you. And it's also for the audience to know the power imbalance between Akaza and the rest of the Hashira, because Akaza just, and I do believe when people say that he was holding back, because it does feel like he was a little bit, that he was toying with Rengoku. And a lot of people think that it was purely to show how high of the stake it was to have Rengoku fight Akaza, because Akaza is like overpowering, right? He was very powerful. He could have killed Rengoku so many times in that fight. I'm not saying Rengoku was weak at all, but it's just that they're demons, and Akaza is like Upper Moon 3. That man is powerful. He ate a lot of people, and so in terms of power, and then obviously he's fighting with a quote-unquote weakened Rengoku, because, well, I don't think he was weakened at all, but I'm just saying that they're demons, they can regenerate, like, and they're smart, and it's impossible. It's very hard to kill them. It's not impossible. It's very, very hard to kill them, especially for Upper 3, who has so much of moves on its blood, right? But yeah, I honestly thought he was gonna stick around a lot longer. But, well, it's still great to see like his 5 seconds of screen time in Infinity Castle. And speaking of, I honestly, that 3 hours was so amazing. Partly because I have never seen, like I said, animation to that scale ever before. Which honestly is not that good of a compliment for me, because I haven't seen that much animation or anime. So it's sort of like me complimenting the only stuff that I've seen. But I'm gonna be so honest, because even if I don't see a lot of animation or anime, this is still one of the greatest thing that I've seen in theater, hands down. It was so incredible to see the fight scenes, and it doesn't even feel like an anime. I honestly, some of the scenes, I was like, how did they did this? How did they do this? And it was just pure dedication and the amount of work. I cannot imagine how much work it is put into this, because even from the intro and the outro where they are showing the Infinity Castle, like that itself was insane. Because how do you have this much creativity? I don't read the manga, right? But I have seen a lot of manga readers saying that this anime does so much justice to the manga and even more. And so I believe them because if I read the manga and I was like, okay, so it's supposed to look like this because for the name, right, Infinity Castle, you have to imagine the scale of it because it's an infinite place. There is nowhere to, you don't know where it starts or where it ends. It's infinite. And so to be able to portray something like that on screen, I was blown. I was truly blown by the way that they animated the Infinity Castle. That by itself is a piece of art. And I cannot imagine the amount of work that was put in it. So I really applaud the animators, people in Ufotable. They are the goats. Literally, they are so amazing at what they do. Because honestly, if you tell me that, hey, I actually want to animate this panel that is called the Infinity Castle, I'll be like, yeah, no, I can't do that. I have no idea how you're gonna do that. But it just feels so good. And I'm running out of words to compliment them because when I was sitting in that theater with all the lights out and they were showing the structure of the building, I felt like I was there with them. I felt like I was also a demon slayer that was sucked into this Infinity Castle for a purge. And it's the sheer intensity of it. And also I also want to applaud the author for thinking of an incredible space for a fight, because out of all of the anime that I've watched so far, this is probably one of the best spatial design I have ever seen, or just in any movie. And I feel like I'm glazing it a lot, but for really good reasons. I don't think that we give enough props to the author for thinking of a space that is, first of all, there's no end to it, and second of all, the design is just so beautiful because it's like all of these buildings are embedded into one another and they keep moving. So not the closest, but I think one of the way that you can, like, that kind of remind me of is Hogwarts, the stairs in Hogwarts, because they keep moving. And it's the same with Infinity Castle. Instead, this is like 1,000 times more intense than the stairs in Hogwarts. It's just so beautiful. It's so beautiful because it just takes my breath away. The first time I saw it at the end of season 4, I was like, how do you even come up with a space like this? And the animators just absolutely killed it. And the fight scene, oh, we can't talk about Infinity Castle without talking about the fight scene. I'm gonna be so for real with you guys. I watch it in Japanese with English subtitles. So, a lot of the times I would have to look down at the subtitles, but I mean, I watch everything in sub anyway, so it's really not a problem. But the fight scenes were insane. Like, I cannot begin to wrap my mind about how they even like drew this or even like, sketched this. I have no idea how they do it because it was, first of all, it was so fast. It was so fast paced. I was lost for majority of the fight scenes. I'm like, oh my god, what are they doing? I cannot see what they're doing. Like, is he hitting that way? Is it hitting that way? And that's how it's supposed to be, right? Because you have two very strong opponents that are fighting each other. Obviously, it's gonna be fast. Nobody fights slow, and it just shows the amount of power that the characters have too. I think it's really, really great. Kind of remind me of how I think it was Makari in Eternals, how as a speedster, her powers we didn't see a slowed version of her power, but instead we see a full-blown speed of her attacks, which is not often that we see it on screen because they're speedster, they're super fast, but we see the scale of her power. And the same thing goes for the fight scene between, for example, Akaza and Giyu and Tanjiro, or even like every other fight, like with Zenitsu and Kayaki and between Shinobu and Doma, like all of those fights. So these are like the three major fights this movie, right? And all of them were just like so well done to the point where I'm like, I do not know if people have problem with this. I do not know how it's gonna get better because it was so fast. You are sucked right into this. I think people might have to rewatch it several times just to catch like, okay, she was hitting it this way. Oh, he was hitting her on the side or whatever. Like I could not tell whose hands was whose or like who was attacking what, but all I know was visually it was captivating. I did not blink for a second when I was watching the fight between Giyu and Akaza because that was the longest fight, right? Out of all the three fights, that was the longest. And for both good and bad, because it kind of shows you how Akaza was really holding back to Rengoku because, you know, he was going almost all out. And Giyu was able to hold his own, but still, like, it is taking him and Tanjiro to kill Akaza. Like, literally, one Hashira and, like, the main character to kill an upper three, which is like not the lowest. We still have upper four, which is like the demon that is controlling and that made Infinity Castle. But still, it's just like the power imbalance is very clear. And so I'm very excited to see the fight with Doma and I forgot the upper moon one's name. Koku something. I'm so sorry, I forgot. But I'm so excited to see the fight with the rest of the upper moons because, you know, Akaza is gone. And while we're talking about Akaza, I do believe that, speaking of, you know, power imbalance and all of that, I do believe that he chose to lose. And a lot of people would agree with me on this. He was literally, what do you mean he was able to reattach his head? And even though it is like his head completely turned into ash and disappear, right? He's supposed to be dead, but his body is still there. And what do you mean he was able to regenerate a second head? And he was still fighting Tanjiro and Giyu with a head missing, and he was about to regenerate everything, but before and then we got hit with his backstory. And I have heard a lot about how good of a backstory that Ayaka, that's Genshin Impact. I don't know how Ayaka got in here, but Akaza's story and how sad it is. And at first when I was watching it in theater, I'm like, yeah, well, I think it was really sad. But I didn't cry, but not until I came back home and I started watching edits and videos of people making about Akaza's and his wife that I just start bawling my eyes out at like 1 and 2 a.m. It was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful, the love that they have for each other. And I don't know how true it is, but on like in the film it shows that they were hugging each other and there's like fire around them, so I assume that, you know, they went to hell together. But then some people are like, well, no, this doesn't happen, he actually went to heaven. I'm not sure how true it is, but from what was portrayed, I would like to think that his wife loved him so much and waited so long for him to remember her that she was willing to go to hell with him. And I was like, this is beautiful. The writing, I feel like the writing of Akaza's was probably one of my top in this film. My favorite is Tanjiro. I really like the way that Tanjiro was written, but Akaza is up there. I really, really like the writing of his story, and the moment where he almost regenerate all of his head and he was about to attack, and Tanjiro was like, no, we gotta get out of here before, you know, both of us die. And he just start attacking himself, just start punching himself. And I even know before that he was gonna do it to himself, because he keeps saying that he hates weak people, and which is a projection, obviously, right? It's very evident it's a projection because he could not protect any of the people that he loved, and they all died. And so it was a projection to how he thinks himself as the weakest out of everybody. So he started killing himself because that's his whole stick. But it was written it was really good because we see a lot of projection in anime in general, with Giyu talking to Tanjiro in the very first season about how like you can't grovel and like not do anything, you have to do something. Or I heard that Doma's and Kano's fight is also going to be a lot about that, so I'm very excited to see that. But for Akaza, and I know that a lot of people complain about how long his backstory is, and like I said, I kind of agree. But I think that it was very essential to remind us once again that all of these demons were once human. They were all human. Muzan was human. Everybody was human. And we all think of them as demon. And obviously, they regenerate. They're scared of the sunlight. They get killed if we cut off their heads. They're not human anymore. But there is still something of humanity that is still inside them. Sorry, I word that really weird. But I'm saying that, Akaza decided, well, first of all, he also said that he was killed fairly, right? He said that Tanjiro killed him with a beautiful technique, and that that single sentence really showed to me that Tanjiro, I know that a lot of people, the scene where Tanjiro was sneaking up behind Asuka, and everybody was like, and Gyu was like, yeah, take his head off, like, because he doesn't know that Tanjiro's behind him, but Tanjiro announced himself anyway, like he gave himself off anyway, and everybody was like, why would he do that? But the thing is, Tanjiro knows that Akaza is well, I don't know if he knows Akaza was projecting, but he keep emphasizing on weak people, and so and Tanjiro knows that if he sneaks up behind Akaza and kills him, that is a sneaky move, and that is one that is out of, first of all, out of tactics, right? But it's not fair in Akaza's eye, and Tanjiro knows this, and he respects that, which is why he gave himself off. And, if he took Akaza's head off and didn't give himself away, Akaza would, honestly, he would regenerate so fast and he would still keep going. But I think part of the reason why Akaza sort of wanted to lose was out of understanding and out of respect to Tanjiro, that he wanted a fair fight and he wanted to die fairly and not like a sneak attack, because his whole backstory was that he got revenge on his master and his fiance/wife because both of them were poisoned. They were sneakily killed. They were cowardly killed, and he doesn't want that for himself. And which is why I really like the fact that when Tanjiro cut his head off, he was smiling and almost like a thank you for giving me this. Thank you for letting me go in a fair way that all of the people that I love did not get, because even his dad was killed, well, not killed, but he hanged himself, but he was very miserable with illness. And so I think it's just a very beautiful way, and I think a lot of people kind of misunderstand when Tanjiro was giving himself away. And I really like that analogy of how Akaza hate weak people because weak people, quote unquote, put poison in the well. And I really like the fact that he respects Tanjiro for taking his head off in a very fair and honest way. And yeah, I just think that his that entire fight scene was really well done. And even though that I agree that his backstory was long, it is very essential for us to understand why Akaza, when he had the chance, could have regenerated and just killed both of them on the spot, right? Like, if he regenerate, I'm so sorry, there is no way Giyu or Tanjiro would have gotten out of that unscathed. They would have lost at least limbs if they are going to like keep going at it. But and yes, and people say that, oh, they only won because Akaza chose to lose. Yes, but for also good reasons, because he respect the way that Tanjiro rightfully killed him. And also, you know, like I said, it shows that all of the demons have some bits of humanity left inside of them, because the moment that he saw his wife in the afterlife, he immediately was like, I don't want this for myself anymore. I do not want to be a demon anymore. I just want to be with my wife and my master and my dad. That is all that I want. And I think that is so beautifully written. And I could write a whole essay about it, actually. And it was really, really great. I really appreciate having that backstory, because we understand his decision to not regenerate, to accept his faith. But that being said, I still would agree that even if he regenerated, there's no way for Gyu and Tanjiro to survive that. He was way too strong, way too overpowered, and yeah, I just, that even Akaza's relationship with his wife and that whole love story was just so beautiful, because knowing his backstory and how much they love each other, I just think that I really love a good love story. And even though that it's a backstory and we don't know a lot more, but it's just, it was so pure for me. I saw that and I was like, this is what true love really is. And it's represented really well, because like I said, his wife was waiting for him in the afterlife. Like, she didn't moved on or like went to heaven or anything. She was right in that middle of the afterlife, and she stayed there just so that she waited for him, so that he could remember her. And in the end, they went together and they were hugging each other. And the moment when she said that welcome home, darling, and welcome home, or like husband, I was like, oh my god, that was so beautiful. This was actually so beautiful. Like, did you just rip my heart out? It was so pure. And I just love, well, you guys know me, I love, right? And so if I see a good relationship that is healthy, that is cute, that is so beautiful, that is so like amazing on screen, I'm bawling my eyes off. And yeah, and then I'm sorry, it's just that fight is still on my mind. Literally right after the film, I was still very high of the fact that I just spent 3 hours watching absolute greatness, and I was really high afterwards. I could not think straight, like on the bus home and everything. I was like, I want to see it again. I want to see it again already. And, let's move on and talk to a little bit about, the other characters. For example, Shinobu's death. I think that it was also, her character is also very, I like the way that her character was written a lot, because throughout the entire first season, she's like so nice and she's always smiling. She's so sweet and kind and patient, but we know that she has a lot of anger inside of her, and like with the flashback and everything. And then we truly see her just like furious in this film, and her voice completely changed. I got goosebumps when I heard her talking to Doma about like, do you not recognize who's Haori this is? Like gripping her sister's Haori, while like talking to Doma, like with absolute venom in her voice. And I was like, oh my god, like the voice actor had bills to pay. And it was just so, I was just in awe of how great it is that we have a female characters that is more than just the nice and kind and sweet person, right? Because she has so much anger up inside of her, and for good reasons. And it's always good to see female rage represented in media. Like, I just love seeing how she seems to be a very forgiving person. She's really sweet, but in face of the demon that took away her sister's life, she is anything but that. And I think that we need to see more of that on media, just because, a lot of the times we are taught to like forgive our oppressors and like, move on. But not in this case, not in Shinobu's case, and I really respect them for not letting a character that is so traumatized and so badly hurt that she does not want to forgive a demon that is, literally took away her only siblings left, her only family left, like blood family left. And I think that it's really great to see that on media, and I think that it should be more represented. And also, people say that the fight was really fast and felt a little bit rushed. I kind of see it, but like I said, it's to show power imbalance, right? And this is like an upper rank 2. Mind you, this guy is, Doma is upper rank 2, which means that he is more powerful than Akaza's. So, like, just keep that in mind, because, like, that's, understandably why the fight ended so bad. And it's not like, Shinobu didn't hurt him or anything. Like, that last bit of poison that she gave him before, she died was like got him immobilized for like a good minute. But obviously, he neutralized it because he was so used to the poison that she used. And it's scary. It's really scary. Her death was probably like the most brutal death I've seen in this series. It was so not great to see that at all. I was just like, oh god. I mean, I have seen leaks and I know that she was gonna die, but it's just like seeing it in screen in person and how brutal it is just breaks my heart, because truly she was such a she had just had so much resentment in her. And I don't think it's like a punishment for those that have so much anger inside of them, but it's more so of like how we can use those anger and resentment to actually do something about it. Because Shinobu did something, and I know that I have seen manga panels. I know actually how Doma dies, so I am very excited to see that animated. But spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the manga panels and everything, she kills him in the end when Doma like absorbed her and everything. She's been drinking poison for like years straight, so that, and she knows that she's gonna die, so she knows that she's gonna be eaten or absorbed or something like that. So she's been drinking poison so that even if she dies, he dies along with her. And that is just so. First of all, she's so freaking smart for that, and I have so much respect for her. But second of all, it shows you how much of a drive anger can lead you to be, and it makes you do things that seems a little bit crazy to other people, but then that crazy idea sort of did the impossible that a lot of people would think. So I think that her character was written pretty well, I would say. And then to Zenitsu, who is the character that got so much hype and so much glaze just from the trailer, or just from like when he was falling into the Infinity Castle, he was like locked in, like he was not asleep anymore, his eyes wide open and everything. And I remember seeing him falling in. I was like, why is he aura farming right now? Like, he is so locked in. I'm kind of excited because out of all of the characters, I keep saying to my coworkers and everything that I don't really like Zenitsu, primarily because of the way that he treats women. It's not like he like treats them weird, unfairly or anything. But it's just like his love for them might be a little bit too much. And so I don't, because it makes him seems like not a womanizer, but just somebody who keeps seeking women's attention and just very like can be a little bit creepy about that. So I was like, I don't know. I would not deny that his fight scenes are really good, especially in this film. I was So we know the reason for this film. We know the reason why he's so angry and he's so determined to kill whoever it is that is in front of him. And we know the reason why is because the person the demon that he was fighting was his senior, and the one that was supposed to be the co-successor of thunder breathing from his grandpa. But upon Zenitsu grandpa hearing that one of his student, well, a co-successor being turning into a demon, he took his own life. He was in so much pain, and obviously like Zenitsu hearing that, he was just like the bottom line for him. Like he just like it was so we finally it's really great to finally see some depth to his character, because I feel like this was not enough. I feel like if you are going to give us a complex character that use his crying and cowardice tendency as a coping mechanism, you should have given us this a little bit at the start. And we kind of have a taste of it, right? We kind of know his backstory a little bit and how he stumps over himself over being able to use only one breathing form. But that is just a little bit, because everything else just sort of overshadows that backstory a little bit. And I understand that his his tendencies to be around women and crying and complaining and all about that is all part of the comedic effect. I understand, right? But it's also like, I would love to see more of this in a lot of the fights that they have previously. Like, this could have gotten into play during the fight between Daki and Gyotaro in season 2, because he plays such a big part. Both Zenitsu, Inosuke, obviously, like, Tanjiro and Tengen was like the main event, but those two, like, without them, they could not have killed those two upper six at all. So I would have loved to see this incorporated a little bit more when Zenitsu was fighting Daki, because he plays, like I said, he plays such a big role in that fight. But that being said, I still really enjoyed seeing this really another side of Zenitsu that we really don't see that often. He was crying, he was angry, he was yelling, he was fighting the only person left that is quote unquote close to him, right? And I really enjoy that. We get to see Zenitsu more than just a laughing stock or like a comedy effect in the series. And yeah, it adds a lot to his character, and I really enjoyed it, but I just hope that we could have seen it earlier in the other seasons. But yeah. And also the moment where Zenitsu almost died. He was on the verge of between life and death, right? And there's he's in this field that has a river between him and his grams, and obviously that is a annotation for crossing the river to get into the afterlife. And his grams was standing on the afterlife, and he was like, I'm so sorry for not being able to live up to like this and that. He was saying sorry for all the things that he did, which, he blames himself a lot for it. And oh my god, the moment when his grams looked at him and goes, "You are my pride and joy," I immediately cried. Like, tears immediately rolled down my cheeks at that. And I was just like, that is so... That single line was so powerful. The way that they built it up, the way that they animated it and everything, with the voice actor, everything about it, it was just so powerful. One single line, I immediately cried, because it's not only what Zenitsu needs to hear. I think a lot of us want to hear that from like another I don't know, like a parental figure or something. I mean, I personally was like, oh my god, that was so beautiful. But everything else in that film was just so magnificent for me. I was just captivated from top to bottom, from the end to the start. Wait, what? The start to the end. Oh my god, can you tell that I'm still like delirious from watching the film? But I cannot wait until the next two film. And it's kind of crazy that we have to wait all the way to 2029 for the final part. That is allegedly. Because that is 5 years, 4 or 5 years from now. I'm gonna be 25. I'm gonna be like half the way through my 20s. That's crazy. But I cannot wait. This has been such a blast, such a great experience. If you guys are able to watch it in theater, please do. It's so different. It's really, really different with the sound. I got goosebumps like almost the entirety of the film just because of how great the animation is. I feel like I was in another dimension as well. As somebody who loves film and have so much respect for animations and animators, I truly felt like I was in this other world where it's just so intense, but it's so beautiful, and everything in front of my eyes is just unreal. Like I still feel really unreal after I walk out of the theater that I just watched Demon Slayer, and it was just so worth the wait and the hype and everything. And so I cannot wait until for all of the other fight scenes are animated and everything else. I cannot wait to see the fight between the upper rank one, and I heard it's gonna be I don't remember who, but I'm really excited to see that character because apparently he's like so powerful because upper rank one, and obviously like the fight with Muzan and everything as well. Super super excited. I cannot tell you guys how grateful I am to be able to watch it in theaters. Please go to your nearest like AMC or something and watch it. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.